Hello friends, welcome back to our series on basic SQL tutorial. So in the first part, we have already started our discussion on what are databases and what is a database management system. If you haven't watched that video, I would recommend you to please watch that video first, as it will give you a clear picture of why do we need SQL and where do SQL falls in this complete database management system. So from this part onwards, we would actually start practicing those SQL commands and we'll go through them one by one. And I need complete participation from your side as well so that we learn together. For that, you would be needing a PC and a good internet connection. That's it. So let's get started. The video is divided into three major sections. In the first section, we'll go step by step installing a DBMS software into our system. In the second section, we will familiarize ourselves with the interface of MySQL Workbench. And in the third section, we'll practice those SQL commands for databases. Okay, so let us start installing the DBMS software in our system. And as we have already decided that we would be using MySQL as our DBMS software in the part 1 of the video, since it's an open source and is one of the most popularly known DBMS software. So in order to install MySQL, you just go to the website mysql.com and it will redirect you to this page. Here you can just click on this downloads button and then you can scroll down, click this MySQL community downloads, and you'll get different options here to download your MySQL software. Now for the Windows, you need to click this option, which is the MySQL installer for Windows. For Mac also, I'll show you how you can install that, but let me first install it for Windows. So you click on this button here, you can select the version, which is the latest version that we have, and our operating system, which is the Microsoft Windows. And out of these two options, you can select any of the options, and I'll be choosing this option to download my software. So you can just click on no thanks, just start my download, and you'll see your download has been completed. Now you'll get this installer in your downloads folder, and you just need to double click it to start your installation. You'll also need to give the permissions, and so it's already started the installation. Okay, so now in the beginning you need to select the setup type that you want. So there are different options. So for the server only, there will be only MySQL server which will be going to install in your PC. And for the client only options, you'll also get MySQL shell, a router, and workbench. But in our case, we would be needing both the server and the workbench to execute our SQL queries. The workbench is nothing but the GUI application that is used to interact with the server. So that's just basically the interface that you will use to type in those SQL commands. So since we need both, we'll just click full here so that we get all the software. So here are all the products that will be installed in our PC. So you just need to execute this command and it will start downloading each one of them, and then it will install them in our PC. Now it will take some time, so let's just wait.
A few moments later.
Okay, so all the products are downloaded. I'll just click the next button and I need to install them now in my PC. Again, it will take some few minutes.
2,000 years later.
Okay, so all the products are finally installed now. You can just click on the next button and you just see that everything is ready to configure. You can again click on the next button, and here you don't need to change anything. Just click next, and here you need to set a password for your server. So you can just put any password. Okay, so I have set the password for the server, and here you don't need to change anything. And again, just click on the next button, and yes, I want to grant full access. Execute. So all these steps are being executed now. Again, you have to wait for some time. Okay, so everything is configured everything is set up, just click on the finish button and click on next. So it will just show you your configuration. Click finish, next. It says connect to the server. I need to put the password here that we set up a few minutes ago. Just click the check. Okay, connection succeeded. So it just check that if the password is correct and you can have a connection with your server. Then click on the next, again execute. So it's just checking if there are any features installed that need configuration, and then running scripts. Okay, so I think everything is set up now, and yeah, it says configuration complete. So it says to start Workbench, that's right, and I don't want SQL shell to be started because I don't need that. So I'll just uncheck that and click finish, and yes, so our software is installed and it will just in a few minutes start our Workbench as well. Okay, so this is how our Workbench look like. So you already have a connection that we made while setting up. So if you don't see any connection here, you can just click on this plus button to have a new connection for the server. And yes, so again you can write any connection name like practice 1, and then again you need to write in your password that you set up. Click OK. You can just click the test connection button to see if everything works. Successfully made the connection. Click OK. OK. So you can see that we have now our own SQL connection. We can just double click on this and it will start our server. Okay, it's a little bit slowy. So yeah, so this is the basic interface for our Workbench, and here we will be typing our whole SQL queries. But before that, let us see for macOS how we can install our DBMS software. So I'll just go again back to the website mysql.com, click the download button, then scroll downward and click on this MySQL community downloads. Now from here onwards, you just need to click MySQL community server and MySQL Workbench. So for macOS, you don't have full setup. You need to download the server and the Workbench separately. So you can just click on the community server, and here you can select your operating system as macOS, and then you can just select the version that you want to install, and it will start your installation after clicking this no thanks button. So okay, so the installation for the server is already installed. Then I can go back and click on this MySQL Workbench, and here again you need to select your operating system to Mac OS, then select the version that suits you, then click on the download, no thanks. Okay, so now both the files are downloaded now. So here you will see these two files are there. So one is for the server and one is for the Workbench. You just need to run each one of them and just follow the steps that we have done in our Windows installation, and I am probably sure you will be able to install it in your macOS system. And if you have any issues or doubts, you can just write in the comment section and I'll try to solve that issues for each one of you. Okay. So let's get back to our Workbench. Okay, so this is the whole interface for our Workbench. In the middle, you'll see the main section, which is to write the SQL queries. And in the left hand side, you'll see the schemas, which is nothing but the database that we will create. And if you just click on this arrow, so this is the database which is already been created by default. And you'll see each database contains tables, views, functions, stored procedures, and so on. You can just click on this button and see there is already a table created, and this is the default table which is created by the system while installing the software. So we don't need to change it or mess with it. We just close it and we'll make our own database in our tutorial. And here you will see the administration tab, and you can see the various options to navigate to. So you can export your data or import your data. You can see the server status or what are clients connected to your server. So this is just the navigator section for our whole tutorial. And in the down below you'll see the action output section. So whatever commands we will be running, all the outputs for the commands will be shown here. So just a few minutes ago I have deleted some extra databases that I have created before this tutorial. So I have just dropped them, which is just deleted them. So it's just showing here what are actions that are done just a few minutes ago. And then above this you have another options to open a script file. If you have already saved a script file for SQL queries, to save this particular script file. There are two options to execute the commands, and we'll see in a few minutes that how they differ. Then there are again basic few options that you have for formatting and so on. Okay, so above here you will also see another options to create a new SQL tab, so that we can write another set of SQL queries for our tutorial. Or if you want to open a script file that contains all the SQL queries that you have written and saved somewhere in the system, then you have another inspector option, which is an interesting one. So you just click on the database and click on this inspector button, which is also the I button. So as informed by the name itself, it will show you all the information about the thing that you have selected. It could be a database, it could be a table. So here in this part we have selected table, so it is showing me okay, so this is the practice 1 server that we created. This sys is the server, and there are some details about the server. And then we can also see the tables that are already there in the database. So you can just see that there is a sysconfig table, and you have other informations like rows, then you have the columns that are created, then like many other options that you can see for this particular database. So if you want to look anything about the table or a database, you can just click that and click this I button, which will help you to inspect that. Then you have option to create a new schema, which is to create a new database just like sys. So we have the SQL query for that as well, and if we don't remember the SQL query, we can also use this button to create a new database. Then to create a new table or to create a new view is a different thing. That's a different thing from table, and we'll not be discussing that in detail. So view is something that is created as an output when we run a particular SQL query. So it's not particularly a table that is stored somewhere, but it's just an output of a SQL query which is being shown in a tabular format. So that's a view that you can create, and many other options that you have. So let's start with the SQL queries. So I'll just open a script file that I have already created for this tutorial, and I'll just open it. Okay, so I'll now go step by step with the commands, and I want you as well to set up your computer at this stage and then continue this video so that you can also practice with me. So let's get started. Okay, so whenever we talk about database management, the first thing that comes into our mind is databases. So a database is nothing but a collection of data that is stored in a particular structure or format. In order to understand the relation between databases and tables, you can think of an analogy where there is a cabinet in a particular office, and this cabinet contains different drawers. So let's say for the first drawer, it contains all the files and folders regarding the information about the employees that are there in the company. So all the files inside that drawer would be related to that category of employees. If there is a next drawer which contains the information about financial data about the company, all the files and folders inside that drawer would contain the information regarding the financial data. So in this case, each of the drawer is the database which contains different folders or different tables inside the database. So one database can store multiple tables inside it, and these tables are also related to each other through some common columns or links. And that's why these databases are also called relational databases. Now, if you want to learn more about relational and non-relational databases, you can just click on this video and have a quick look on the databases section. Okay, so now we know about the databases. Okay, so let us start creating our first database. So for that we need to type create database and then the name of the database that you want. You can choose any name, but here I'll be using the name of my YouTube channel because I'll be storing the data in the tables about my YouTube channel only. So also remember, at the end you need to use this semicolon just for every command that you use. Okay, so once we have our command, you just need to execute the command. So there are two options with you. The first option executes the selected portion of the script or everything if there is no selection. So in order to execute this command, you can just select this and use this button, or if you haven't selected any of the commands or your cursor is just lying around in the script and you run this execution through this button, it will execute the whole commands inside your script, and you just be cautious about that. In the second option, you execute the statement under the keyboard cursor. So wherever your keyboard cursor is, it will execute the command including that keyboard cursor and the commands below that particular command. So you can choose whatever way you want to execute your commands. I'll just select this portion and use this option to execute it. Okay, so if you see in below in the action output window, it has created a database for us under the name Think Upon AI, but it has not been reflected here yet. So in order to see that, you just need to right click and click refresh all. So here you will see the database that we have created. If you just open this database, you can see there is no data containing in this database. So we don't have any tables or anything. It's just completely empty for now. Okay, so we have created our database, but what if I execute this command again? Let's see. So it gives me an error and it says can't create this database because it already exists, and that makes sense. But in order to avoid this error, there's also one other option to write. You can just write create database if not exists. So what it will do is it will first check if this database already exists or not, and if it doesn't exist, then only it will create the database. So I just select this and execute this. So you see there is no error now, but there is only a warning which is fine, that says that okay, it has found a database and so it has not created any database, but that's fine for us. But why is it important? So in this case, you only have two databases, but what if you have thousands of databases in your server and you can't just scroll and check what database exists or not? But you can use this command to check already if the database exists or not, and then create the database according to that. Okay, so once we have created our database, we can also delete the database if we have by chance created it by mistake or we don't need it anymore. So for deleting a database, we can use drop database and then the name of the database that we want to delete and then the semicolon. So I'll just select this, execute this, and you'll see that the action is completed successfully and our database is gone. So if I click refresh all button, now also I can't see my database. So it has completely deleted my database. But again, what if I run this query one more time? Let's see. So naturally it will give me an error because it doesn't find any database under this name. So again, in order to prevent this error, there is the same option, but in this we'll use if exists, which is the opposite of what we did in the first case, because here we are deleting the database. So it will check if the database exists, then only it will delete the database. So if I just run this command and see, so there is no error now, but we have only the warning that can be ignored. Okay, so we know how we can create a database, how we can delete a database. So in order to move forward, just create our database again so that we can use other commands as well. Okay, so if I use refresh all, okay, so it has created my database. So once the database is created, now we want to create or add tables or information into that database. But how will the SQL server know that which database to use or which is the active database right now, so that it can create the tables inside those particular databases only? So for that we have the command use. So I just write use think upon AI. So now the server will know that okay, it has to use this database to store any information. So it has completed successfully, and you can see the database think upon AI has been bold. So if I, let's say, to understand it better, if I use sys, you can see the sys database will be the active database. Okay, so I'll just revert it and click execute. Click refresh all. Okay, what happened? It says unknown database think upon AI. What just happened? Maybe it got deleted or something. So let's just create that database again and then use the database. Okay, so now we have our database which is active. So we have a basic idea how we can create, delete and use the database with the SQL commands. So in the next section we will see how we can input the information and use the SQL to create tables inside our databases. So that's it for the second part, and I hope you were able to follow through the video. And do consider subscribing my channel, because in the next video I'll be coming up with many more SQL commands that we can learn together. Thank you for watching.